Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to play Arena in Age of Empires 2. This is going to be the beginning of a longer series talking about how to play pretty much every single map in the game. I'll go through them one by one as by your requests, and this series has been heavily requested from you guys as well. I got recommended to do this maybe over 100 times over the past couple of years, and so I'm very happy to be finally bringing it. And anyways, for episode 1 or unofficial episode 1, we're going to start with how to play Arena because it's Masters of Arena going on right now, and I figured it's a good map to introduce to you guys and to explain to all the beginners out there who might not know how to play it. I'm also going to have some information that will be helpful for some of the non-beginners on the channel as well, so definitely watch it and enjoy. You might learn something or two. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the map and see what it has to offer. So if you notice, a standard game of 1v1 Arena will have both players across from each other, and there's going to be stone walls separating them, so keeping them pretty safe. And then all around the whole map, there's going to be a very thick forest, kind of similar to how thick it is on maps like Black Forest and whatnot. But on Arena, the forest will kind of go from one guy's base all the way to the other on both sides. So you'll be well covered on both sides of the forest, and then you got those stone walls to protect yourself. So you're pretty naturally well protected. And if you take a look, there's no hills across the entire map, so gaining control and getting a castle or a siege workshop on a hill is really not a factor to consider. And then you'll also notice that there's 5 relics in between both players in the center of the map, and they're usually quite spread out. And so even though there's no hills on the map, and so map control isn't as important for that factor, map control is still important because those relics definitely play a big role. And keep in mind, because of the stone walls, feudal age aggression is usually not even possible. However, you could try to like a tower rush and use your villagers and some archers to beat down the opponent's walls, but that's really not a good viable approach. And so you'll pretty much come to the conclusion that the only logical thing you can do is aim towards castle age and play from there. And that's pretty much all there is to Arena. So now let's talk about what there is to actually play for in this map. We've already spoken about how there's really not much to be done in terms of early game aggression, so the next viable option is to really go to Castle Age and try to either get an economy lead and work your way up into the late game, or you could try to contest the relics in the center. You also have some opportunities to go for a push on your opponent's base, because let's be honest, in Castle Age, stone walls are pretty sturdy, but you can definitely knock them down with some siege or even a forward castle. So it becomes a little bit more interesting as far as what options are available to you in the Castle Age. Alright, so there's basically like 3 common strategies, and I've already mentioned kind of the gist of them, but just to recap here, the first approach is to stay behind your walls. You've got the stone walls set up, we'll use them as defense and we'll completely forego the entire map and instead focus on developing our economy. This is usually known as a fast castle, and we do it by just going with market and blacksmith, going up to the castle age and right away dropping our extra 2 town centers to begin. So you have 3 TC as fast as possible, we get the economy upgrades, and we just develop our economy. Usually the strategy will include us going for a 4th and even sometimes a 5th town center, and we're usually playing for a very strong late game composition or some sort of timing attack later on in the game. This is honestly my recommended strat for beginners out there because there's really not a whole lot that can go wrong, and against other beginners, usually they don't really pressure you too much early, and you have that time to set up exactly what kind of strategy or what kind of civ composition you want to go for, and with that time, developing your economy is usually the smartest thing you can do. The second approach is to try some kind of rush. So this usually involves going for a siege push in the center or going for a castle drop either at your base if you want to just mass up your unique units and make a play on your opponent's walls, or you could take the risk, send all your vills forward, or let's say not all but like 10 vills forward or something like that, go for a forward castle, and that forward castle will be able to break down your opponent's stone wall, and then you can make your unique unit from up close and just start destroying your opponent's base. Usually this is mixed in with like a siege workshop push or something like that. Other kind of rushes are fast imp, especially with Turks going for instant gunpowder, but there are other civilizations that can make fast imp work as well. There's also monk rushes. This could be done with either a fast imp or just an all-in castle age monk rush with like 3 monasteries, 1 siege workshop, with the goal being breaking your opponent's walls and swarming him with monks before he's able to really react. The reason why monks are so good in this kind of rush instead of other units is because monks don't really have a good counter if your opponent isn't well prepared for them. And so if he's caught booming, monks in siege would just be the strongest snowballing composition, because monks with redemption will push buildings, siege, and they usually do well against a variety of units. And if you combine them with a few spears, you even protect them against their biggest counter, which is the light cav. And so monk siege pushes are quite deadly. However, it is a pretty hard strategy to pull off, so I don't recommend it for beginners out there. The third approach, the third most common strategy, is kind of a hybrid between the two. The first one was pure booming, the second one was pure rushing, and the third one is a mix between the two. This is known as controlling the relics, or relic control strategy, whatever you want to call it. And this basically means that you're going to be committing to the middle relics with, let's say, one stable and one monastery, making a mix of light cav and monks, trying to get those relics in the center as quickly as possible before your opponent can snag them. Behind this, we'll also add a couple town centers when we can afford them. So first we'll prioritize fighting for the relics, of course, and then we'll prioritize our economy. If you do it the other way around, you risk your opponent just taking the relics for his own, and you don't really get any piece of that delicious pizza in the center. Pizza, of course, being relic. This is by far the most common opening, and if you're not sure what you want to do, you pretty much can never go wrong doing this. Just go for some light cavalry, go for the relics, pick up as many as you can, and then fall behind into a boom. And you might be asking, why light cav? Why not knights or any other powerful units? And this answer is simple. If there's going to be monks on the field, the best unit to control the game and to snipe off those enemy monks is the light cav. And so going for light cav, you're basically immune to monks. You have a lot of line of sight, so you get to see exactly what your opponent's going for. You get to control the map or the middle area very effectively, and that lets you have the best chances to play for the relics. Other options though, if you don't want to go for light cav, you don't have bloodlines or whatnot, you could try to go for some spearmen, or if you're Mesiciv, you could go for a mix of spears and eagles. Those usually do pretty well. But whatever it is, make sure you're not investing too much, because at the end of the day, we're only playing for the relics, which help us in the super late game. We still need to develop our economy or else we fall behind. So again, if you're going for the third approach, make sure you're not doing some kind of like all-in push and then adding economy. If you're going for an all-in push, go for strategy number 2 and add that siege to break your opponent's walls. All right, so now that we've talked about their most common strategies, let's talk about what style civs work the best. Now, it depends what approach you go for, but generally speaking, most strong arena civs can actually pull off all 3 strategies and are quite versatile. There are a few things you're looking for in strong arena civs. You're looking for a strong economy. Good economy bonuses or good economy development in early mid-game definitely helps you get an advantage over your opponent and could lead to you having the initiative. It also leads to you having a bit more resources early game to fight for those relics, which ends up giving you a long-term advantage. And so strong economies in the early game usually translate well on arena. But you're also looking for wide tech tree and a lot of variety, especially in the monk and siege departments. Arena is a map with no hills, and so it's very important to be able to push with siege and monks. And if you don't have access to those, raiding usually isn't going to cut it, because you don't have any hills to camp with castles while raiding, and there's not a whole lot of space to raid because your opponent is stonewalled and he's got forests to either side. And so it's usually the slow pushes that end up working best. And so for that reason, we're really looking for civilizations with bomber cannon, strong trebuchet, siege onagers, siege ram, heavy siege that works well, and then monks that have block printing, redemption, sanctity, all the important upgrades. Atonement is an added plus in case you get into a monk war. And honestly, in general, civilizations that are really strong at holding or pushing in a certain position and not great at raiding are usually the civilizations that do very well on arena. Don't get me wrong, in late game there is some raiding to be had on arena because you can still control the extra golds on the sides and whatnots, but in general it really is those push in one spot kind of civilizations that end up doing best. There's a ton of them, so I'm not going to sit here and start naming them off, but I do have a tier list on best arena civs, so you can check that out on my YouTube channel for more information. All right, before I let you guys go, I'm going to give you guys a few pro tips to really make sure you have the best results in your own games. First pro tip is if your opponent is committing to heavy monks, just pick up Heresy as soon as you can if your Civ has it. That is the best way to counter monk rushes. So go for Heresy and then overwhelm him with a lot of army. Generally speaking, you want to pick your fights and not just take a bunch of little fights, because if you take a bunch of little fights, your opponent will just convert your units and his army gets stronger and stronger. So try to mass up as much as you can and then take the fight one shot. Another pro tip is if your opponent is going for a fast stimp with Turks, don't try to go to Imperial Age as well. Play for an all-in Castle Age, add a lot of economy, make a lot of units, and try to overwhelm him with numbers instead of tech advantage. If you try to go imp, you're not going to have enough time and you're going to go overrun by the gunpowder. And then the last tip I have for you guys is if the game goes really late and you're not necessarily winning the late game, or he's got all the relics or whatnot, try to make some onagers and cut the sides of the forest so your opponent is forced to come out to look for some wood once he runs out of the wood and that's near his base or close to him. All you have to do is just pick a spot that's close to his base that he's not really contesting, take an onager, cut all the trees, and then cut the trees for like 5 tiles around that area to really make sure that once he gets there, once he chopped all the wood that's closer to him, he has to walk an extra 5 or 10 tiles to get more wood, and that's going to be way more exposed and way easier for you to contest. If you can starve him for wood, that even beats relic control in late game, so definitely keep that as a secret weapon in your arsenal. Alright, that's going to do it. Hopefully this video was helpful, and hopefully you guys know how to play Arena. Guys, make sure to share this to all your friends that are looking for a good guide in Arena, and maybe post it on social medias like Reddit or Discord, just to really spread the word and get all this information out there. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Peace.